Now, finally, there's a thing called culture shock. Pretty much anyone who moves from one culture to another experiences, and this can even be at the business level. If you're going to move from one to the other, I would move from IBM to Apple. If you're moving from Apple to IBM, you're going to have a lot more difficulty, or you may have a lot more difficulty adjusting. Here again, you have moved into, if only temporarily, a high context culture, moderately high context culture, but considerably higher context culture than the one you come from. And that means that there's a lot out there in the way of stimuli that you're getting bombarded with all the time, even if you don't see it, even if you don't feel it immediately. You will feel some of it. You will probably, all of you, notice insofar as they have them, and sometimes they don't anymore, European sirens, the two-tone thing that always reminded me of the Diary of Anne Frank when I first heard it. You'll notice tram noise if there are no trams in your cities. There are a few trams in cities in the U.S. that I recall. Things like that you'll notice. But in addition, there will be hundreds of things that hit you constantly, which you will be screening out without realizing it, because you can't focus on everything at one time. And that screening out process, or just the miscuing, if you've already gone into a store and somebody has been walking out and they sort of look at you like you're crazy because you walked in and didn't give them the right of way, then you've probably already felt like, what did I do wrong? What's the guy scowling at me for? Usually it's a babichka who's going to scowl at you for that. And you'll have some little reaction. Maybe we'll get over it, but those kinds of things are happening all the time. And what happens is you begin to develop, or can begin to develop, an overload. Your circuits just get so loaded up with stimuli, with things that are new, that you can't process them. And everybody does that. I mean, a few gifted people can get around that and not experience it. I experience it, and frankly, probably because of my background, I like it. I surf it. I love going into an entirely new environment and looking around and going, oh, wow, this is just so different. What's this language that people are speaking? And why is there a hog's head hanging on the door of the butcher shop? And who's going to clean up that blood? Sorry if you're vegan or something like that. But that kind of thing really does energize me. And it may energize you. It probably will energize most of you because you've been interested enough in experiencing things differently to come here. But you will also, because you get so much stimuli, you will probably begin to experience some of the symptoms of what we call culture shock. And as I said, culture shock is nothing more than dealing with the fact that your expectations may be violated all the time. You may find that things are just done so differently that you have to readjust considerably. The symptoms that you can experience range widely. It can be things like you get an excessive concern with neatliness and orderliness and cleanliness. It's, for some people that's a way of holding on. Everything on my desk is in order, and my desk is never in order, but for some people that the world is in its place and I can handle it. Excuse me. Some people will have bouts of irritability, even anger. Some people will feel helpless and begin to withdraw. A couple of times in California, we had once a Spanish woman, once a Japanese man. People literally did not come out of their bedrooms. for the whole time they were there. And in the case of the Japanese man, it was considerably exacerbated by the fact that he started to drink, and we had to medevac him home. He had really done himself some damage. I don't expect any of you to go through that, but that is a measure of what can some of the kinds of things that can go on. But most of them are going to be much smaller. I remember I was teaching in Prague under communism in 87, 88. It was a gray December day. It gets dark about 3:30, and Prague was the saddest, beautiful city on the planet under communism. Um, and I dragged myself to class, and we were watching a film called El Norte about two undocumented workers who come across the border into California. Um, and they go into a Mexican restaurant before they cross the border. And they walk in, and there's the music, there's the food, there's the color, and everything. And my soul just went, oh, I need that. I want that. And it was a moment when all of that stress, all of that experience of being cut off from things that I was familiar with, just had my catharsis, and desperately wanted Mexican food. When the only quote unquote ethnic restaurant in Prague at the time was an Italian restaurant that had 3 dishes. You did not get any other kind of ethnic food under communism. So it can be small things like that. You can read a paragraph 6 times and not know the sixth time any better what you've read than the first time. We all do that at times. But this can be a symptom, culture shock. Sleepiness, excessive sleep, sleep 10, 12 hours, wake up exhausted, unable to function. Again, there is a deep exhaustion, can be a deep exhaustion developing inside you. Compulsive eating, especially if you're going through jet lag. And for those of you, I know, because when I go back to the States, it's California, and that's 9 hours difference in a 24-hour journey, door to door. Getting over jet lag, if any of you are still having problems, the best two things are carbohydrates in moderation, just like if you're preparing for a run, if you're a marathoner, and blocking. Daylight. Daylight, amazingly, is one of the things that helps people adjust, helps their inner chronometer to get them on the time they need to be on. Worst case, you can run into depression. You can run into some serious bouts of depression. This happens most frequently if you have been through a recent trauma of some kind. If you've recently broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, recently had a death in the family, recent medical problem required hospitalization, something that really sort of jolted your day-to-day life. Usually if people have serious problems, people like you, I'm not talking about the Spanish woman or the Japanese guy, they were coming from high context cultures into low context cultures, and that's like a fish being brought up out of the deep pressurized sea, deep sea fish, up to the surface, and the tendency there is to just explode. Most of you aren't going to experience anything like that. If you do, if God forbid something were to come up with the health of one of your family members while you're here, that can shake you up. If you do, just monitor yourself. Ask yourself, am I coping with this? Am I handling this? Or do I need help? Err on the safe side. If you think there's a possibility you need help, let us know. Nikki, let me know, let any of the staff know. There's a number of very good psychologists in Prague who deal with expatriates all the time, because there are a lot of expatriates here, not just Americans, all nationalities. And some of them had no choice about coming here. A lot of the wives of husbands who've been assigned, it's a lot like being a military wife. Husband gets word from company headquarters, you're going to Prague for 3 years. The wife may just have to adjust, and that can be a difficult adjustment. And that may require a certain amount of professional help. Don't hesitate. Don't feel bad. It's, psychological help is just like physical help. If you break your arm, you don't feel bad about going to the doctor, even though Margaret Mead says that Americans are the only people in the world who blame themselves for getting sick. Um, don't feel bad about going to a specialist or seeking one out if you need it to cope with what you're going to be going through. Now, to make sure that I don't scare anybody, 3 months is an incredibly short time, not just in the sense that it's going to go by quickly, but it's not typical that people would have severe um, reactions to change in the short period of time of 3 months. In 25 years here in Europe, I have only seen one case of that. And that was an American who came from a very high context culture family. Family was immigrant. So he grew up in a very high context culture environment in his home. He came over here, discovered that drugs were available all over the place, and he got himself into serious trouble and had to be flown home. But that's one in 25 years. So I don't have any concerns about that happening with any of you. If you find yourself in difficulty, let us know. We'll be glad to help you out. Finally, I would say if there's anything that you can take away that anyone can take away if they can make the effort, that you should, it's friends. My first experience in Yugoslavia in 79, 80 as a Fulbright lecturer, it was one of the best years of my life. And to this day, 30 some, it's getting to be 40 years, yeah. 30 some years from then, I still have friends that I made in that year. I still call them up. I still go down and see them. I'll meet with them if they come to Prague. These are some of the closest friends I have. It's very true that in high context cultures, friendships last much longer. They're harder to make. It takes effort. But if you make the effort, you will keep those friendships for as long as you want. And the longer you keep them, the more you realize just how special they are. Now, you had the opportunity to get a partner from our faculty, a Czech student. If you didn't take that opportunity, think about it. Certainly, if you're in my classes and in many of the others, you will have the opportunity to be in class with Czech students. Also with a large number of other European students on the Erasmus exchange program. We get a lot of people from the Baltic countries, Germany, we get people from Netherlands, some Scandinavian, and the occasional French, Spanish, even British. And, they're Europeans too. They may not be Czech, but you're dealing again with high context culture people. Make friends with those people. Mix with those people. The Czechs especially, and probably some of the other Europeans, will be self-conscious about their English. Czechs are very, very shy, self-conscious. But encourage them. Ask them out for coffee. If you're really lucky, you may get invited into a Czech home, and if you've done that, then you have really done a number on your experience here. But I guarantee you the kinds of friendships that you can make in an experience like this will last you a lifetime and keep you in contact with the experience that you've had in a way that I think will greatly, greatly enhance the very short time that you have here. So enjoy yourselves. As I said, you've done a very, very wise thing. If there's any way that I can be helpful, my email is on the website, and I'd be glad to hear from you. Good luck.